2024 is still the year of the Strat, and Fender have went into the woodshed and pulled out a couple of very interesting cuts for these particular guitars. Let's check out the FSR Fender American Performer Timber Collection. The American Performer range is the first step into the Fender USA catalogue, and they are made in the exact same place as the American Pros, the Ultras, and that is their Corona, California factory. Now these guitars, they took over from the previous iteration, which were the Specials. And to be fair, these guitars have been out for a while now, so there's not really any sort of new ground to sort of cover in terms of the electronics, the way that they're made and all of that. What I want to focus on today is three particular guitars, which I have two other Stratocasters on the wall there as well as the one in my lap. And these are the brand new Timber Collection. Now this is a very limited edition line, which also involves some Telecasters as well, but I'm only going to be focusing on the Strats today. Now, if you do want to check out one of the three models, then do check the timeline below, because this will be split up into chapters. But let's just start with the one that's in my lap, which is this guy right here. So this particular model here, this is made out of Sassafras, which is a type of wood that would be considered very, very close to swamp ash, which is another type of wood that Fender do use. But unfortunately, swamp ash is becoming a little bit more rare these days, and it's becoming a little bit more endangered as well. So Sassafras being quite similar to it in terms of looks and in terms of sound profile as well. Now, I'm not going to have any sort of go into that conversation today that if tone woods are going to drastically affect an electric guitar. By all means, obviously, the sound is going to be carried through this. It will do something to it, but in terms of obviously like pickups, pedals, amplifier and stuff like that, there is more factors at play. Hey, why don't you talk about it in the comments down below, and do let me know if it really does affect the the sound of an actual electric guitar. But with this guitar, it's got a very quite striking sort of wood grain on it as well, and that's going to be one of the kind of key points with these particular guitars, especially with them being satin finishes, much like some of the other Performers as well. So you can really see that kind of shining through there, especially with this quite sort of like thin mocha finish on it. I'm getting big 70s vibes off of this, guys. But they are loaded with those Yosemite pickups, so let's see how they are sounding. before I move on to the other models as well, I just want to kind of highlight one of my favorite things, and this is particularly with the Performer models and themselves, particularly with the Stratocasters. So they have a push-pull on the last tone knob there, and that's the one that will control your bridge pickup. But what that actually does is it initiates the neck pickup in all of our positions. So if I even just, I'll cycle through a couple of them here and just let you hear exactly what it's doing, because it can kind of bring in that sort of like Telecaster tone, particularly with like if you're just on the bridge just right here. You'll hear this just right now. So obviously you're getting a lot of that kind of natural stratty stuff out of it you would expect from all those like middle positions and the in-between sort of positions and whatnot. But I think it's just quite cool because you are able to actually activate all three pickups there when you are on that second position. So when you've got your bridge and your middle active, simply pull that up. That'll bring the neck in as well, and it'll give you quite sort of a unique sound as well. And actually I quite like what it does with a little bit of fuzz on it, so I'll put that on right now. So quite a lot of different sounds to be able to mix around with the Performers, but why don't we just check out the next guitar that is in the Timber collection, and that is the Sugar Pine, which is just this guy right here on the wall in this two-tone sunburst. Now pine isn't new wood that Fender have been using on their recent Vintage 2 models with the Telecaster in particular. And I'm pretty sure with the American Pros as well, there is a couple of pine options in there. Bit of a kind of story with those guys. I'm not going to go far too in depth with sort of the history of pine with it, but a lot of the first Fenders that were created in the early 50s, they were made out of pine, but we've kind of moved away with alder and ash. So to have a couple of models that have got that more kind of old school sort of mentality, just in terms of the woods, obviously, that they're using, for any purist, you may be into that. So obviously in terms of the sounds that you're going to be getting out of the pickups in this particular guitar, we're not getting anything completely far removed from the Sassafras one that we were just playing. Obviously one of the kind of key features with this particular guitar, not only being the pine, but it does have a maple board on this one as well. So again, we're kind of going back to that really sort of early 50s sort of configuration with it, but with obviously all the appointments of a modern Fender Performer. So with this one, I'll kind of cycle through a couple of sounds that I used previously with this one, but I think I'll take this opportunity to kind of show you a couple of different sounds that these guitars can get as well. So not only is the kind of more vintage inspired sugar pine, you know, one for anyone who's a more fan of those kind of very, very early year Fenders, or wants to be a fan, I guess, of those very early year Fenders, because not everybody can obviously obtain those crazy secondhand prices for those guys. But with the sugar pine as well, one of the advantages of it is that it is a much more lightweight wood as well. So for anyone who does want that slightly lighter Strat, not to say that this guy is particularly light, I would say it's very much still in the wheelhouse of a traditional Strat. Combining it against our next kind of timber that we're going to be looking at, it's maybe ever so slightly lighter. But for our last one here, this is actually made out of spruce, which for any acoustic fans out there will know that that's a commonly used top across a lot of different acoustics. And it's not really used for electrics that often. I think it does have, again, kind of going into that sort of sound profile thing for the like amount that it's doing for this guitar when it's been processed through a million different effects and whatnot. I think it does have a slightly sort of chimier sort of sound to it. I mean, just check this out. And certainly kind of like the other models as well, it does have this quite unique sort of grain to it. And again, helps with the fact that this is a matte finish. It's quite a thin paint job that's on it as well. And it's obviously quite important to say that the necks are all matte as well on these. Some may kind of, obviously a little bit of word of warning with that as well, because I quite like a matte finish myself on a guitar. But the important thing to note with this, so with the matte finish, it is going to be a little bit more susceptible to bumps and grazes and whatnot like that. And especially with some of these woods as well. Spruce isn't the, you know, these are all considered hardwoods. I'm sure I'm not any sort of wood expert out there, but certainly on the lists that I've seen, they have been considered that. But with these guitars, they are a kind of, some of the woods are considered a little bit softer than the others. So it's worth kind of, you know, taking that into consideration, especially if it gets a little bit of a ding or anything. You may kind of experience a little bit kind of knocks and bruises in it. But again, that can look quite cool depending if you are into that sort of relic thing. And certainly with all three of these guitars, I wouldn't say one is kind of standing out a little bit more to me. Again, one of those conversations that the internet love to have is obviously with tone woods and whatnot, and quintessentially I'm hearing a lot of Stratocaster in all these guitars, which is good because they are all Strats. So that's about all I want to really cover with the timber collection from Fender. I think it's quite cool that they are branching out and having these slightly different types of wood, or kind of older style woods that they have used on other guitars. And it's one of those things that by all means, if you're not like a total sort of like, you know, absolutely obsessive with tone wood or anything like that, or even if you don't, you know, if you don't believe that actually changes anything to do with your guitar, then I think these guitars are just quite cool because they are limited edition, and again, they are quite sort of like unique looking as well. With the paint jobs that they've decided to combine with these guitars, I think that's been one of the kind of coolest things, especially because you can see a lot of that grain coming through there. And certainly if, you know, if you want to show off to your friends and whatnot and go, well, actually my guitar's made out of Sassafras, then you can do whatever you want with that at all. But until next time, I've been Kieran, and this has just been a look at the FSR American Performer Timber Collection. Have a great day.